Alright, so welcome to part 2 of the tutorial. Today we're going to make the sword attack, and if you haven't watched the first tutorial, make sure you do so now. And if you watched the first tutorial, I made a mistake. I forgot to show you. Go into live coding, settings, and disable this enable re-instancing. And that's all I need to do. First we're going to get the animations. Hi, I'm recording this in the future. The player model I was using was used for first person, so I custom made it so it just has the arms. But if you go in the description, you can drag in the Wipeout Arms FBX, leave all the settings default, and import all. Save everything, drag and drop materials into a materials folder, and create an animations folder, and drag in the attack animation, which I got from Mixamo, and select the Wipeout Arms skeleton, and leave everything default, import all. Alright, that's all you need to do. It might look weird on my screen. That's because I was using the full model and not the first person model during the tutorial. I'm going to viewport, select our mesh, and we're going to search up our player mesh, drag it into position like so. Alright, next we're going to set up our attack. We're going to create some variables. The first one will be damage, and the second one will be a public variable. It will be a boolean. I'm going to call it B is attacking. And what this does, we're going to call this inside Unreal Engine through an animation blueprint. Next, we're going to create some functions. I'm going to create a comment here saying attack to be organized. We're going to void start attack and void line trace. I'm going to add this here. The start attack would be called an input, so let's create an input right now. We go to edit, project settings, input. I'm going to create an action mapping. It's going to be left click. I'm going to call it attack. Now copy paste the attack, or your name, player input, component, find action, paste in the attack name, and we're going to call this when it plays. I'm going to affect in this player character, and we're going to call start attack. So and simple start attack. And what this is going to do, we're going to call attack animation, and in here we're going to deal damage the enemies in range. So first of all, we're going to need to import a sword model. I have one set up for you. If you download it below, I got it on TurboSquid for free. If you check here, there's some credits and a link to download it yourself. So first of all, I'm going to create a folder for sword. I'm going to drag and drop the textures. And I'm going to drag and drop the sword model. We're just going to reset to default settings. And we're not going to create materials. And we're not going to import textures, since we already have that set up. Here we have a sword static mesh. And if you go into the socket manager, we can call this start and end. So what we are going to do is we're going to make the start of the attack line trace at this first socket and the end all the way up here. So anything that gets hit in between this range will take damage. So you can close all this, and now underneath mesh, we're going to create a sword mesh. We could add it up here, but we're going to code it in ourselves. So to do this, view property, and in the last tutorial I did edit anywhere for the camera. The visible anywhere also works if it's a component, as you can see. So visible anywhere, class use static mesh component asterisk sword mesh, and we need an include file for this, just like a camera. So if we control click that, it'll open up a document, and if we hover over this, it says component static mesh component.h. So up here, include components static mesh component.h. Next, we're going to sword mesh, create default subobject, and we're going to copy paste the static mesh component into the triangle brackets. And we're going to call this sword mesh. Now we're going to do sword mesh we're going to set up attachment, and instead of doing root component where it's attached to the capsule component, we're going to attach it to our character mesh. So to do this, we're just going to get mesh. We also want to add it to our socket. To do this, search our skeleton mesh, open it up, and we're going to find our hand. We can use left hand or we can do right hand. If we preview the animation of attack, we can see it uses the right hand to swing the sword. So I'm going to add socket, and it's going to be a right hand socket. And if you create the socket, we're going to call this sword socket. And I'm going to turn off this animation here. I'm going to line it up to the hand right here. We're going to need to get our socket name. As you can see, F name is socket name, so we're going to do F name, and we call it sword socket, and that should create our mesh. And before we compile this, I'm going to do one last thing. We're going to call an animation. First, we need to get a reference to an animation. So use property. For this, we're going to edit anywhere, and we're going to class uanim sequence and attack animation, and in here we're going to call the attack animation. If the attack animation exists, if it doesn't exist and we try to call it, it's going to crash the game. So to prevent this, we use if statements with attack animation. If it exists, we're going to get our character mesh. We're going to call the asset animation by saying play animation attack animation. So this is the animation we're going to call. And should it loop, we don't want it to loop, we just want it to get called once, so it's going to be false. Oh, I made a typo. If there's an error, just copy paste whatever you put in here into here. To run over what we did, we created a sword mesh, and we got reference to our animation. When our attack is called, it will play an animation on the character, which is our attack animation, which we have right here. And the sword mesh will be in the socket, which we placed here. So if we close Unreal Engine, save everything selected, and compile, everything should be working just fine. Also, if you get errors like this, go into entire solution and do open documents, and if there's none, just compile again, and it should work the second time. If it doesn't work the third time, there's something wrong with your code, so you might want to check in the output log. Now I'm going to open the last editors that we closed, and if we open full blueprint editor in the player character, you can see we have a sword mesh here, and we can select our sword which we made, and we can line it up like so. And if we press play and we click, nothing happens. That's because we forgot to set up attack animation. So if we search up attack animation, we can pick attack and press play. You can see we attack. So we're gonna make our attack right now, and this will be a bit complicated, so stick with me. We're going to need to get socket locations of our start and end location we made on the sword. As you can see here, we're going to need to get the socket locations. We're going to need to set up line trace, and then we're going to need to line trace. So there's one thing we need to do first, and that's put this in our public section. The reason why is we're going to call this inside our attack animation blueprint. So if we go into our animations attack, we're going to create a new notify. To do this, I'm going to create a new folder, attack notify. We're going to create two. So if we go into blueprint class, notify, and we're going to need to do anim notify state, and we're going to call this attack notify. And underneath this one, if you right click here, add notify state, tag notify. We'll have this slider. So what we're going to do is you browse through the animation, and I'm going to start the tag right about here. So I'm going to move the starting slider to no, and I want it to end here, halfway through no. So I'm just going to set this up, and if we double click this, we're going to receive notify tick, and on here under our mesh component, we're going to hit the owner, which will be our player, and we're going to pass to player character BP. If we compile, we can see this works. And if it does, we're going to call our line trace function with the zoom mode notify we need to create. And that is our tag end. So I'm going to create a new anim notify. And we're just going to do anim notify, not anim state. I'm going to end tag, add notify, end tag. We open this up and save notify. We're going to copy paste all of this, paste it in here, and close everything. We need to do new function, blueprint playable, and new property, blueprint read write. And the reason we're going to set this up is so if we attack while already attacking, it will do it twice, and we don't want that. We don't want two attacks at the same time. So we're going to do and will be is attacking is false. We indicated false by the exclamation mark. So if the attack animation exists and we're not already attacking, we're going to call this, and we're going to set b is attacking equal to true, and we're going to set false inside the animation. And next, while we're at it, we're going to do the line trace. So first of all, we're going to get the socket locations. F vector start location is get mesh, and then we're going to get socket location, and it requires F name, and we call it start. And we're going to duplicate this, going to make this end location, and we called it end. So that gets our start and end location. Next, we're going to set up our line trace. And this part's confusing. You don't really need to know it. You just need to memorize. So F hit result. So this is the object we hit with a sword. F collision query params trace params. This is basically what are we allowed to collide with. We don't want to collide with ourselves, so we're going to do trace params dot add ignore actor, and we're going to do this. So we don't want to collide with this actor. Finally, going to set up our line trace. We're going to do get world, and next we're going to do line trace, a whole bunch of options. We're going to do single by channel, and next we're going to put in our hit result. We're going to put our start location. We're going to put our end location, and we're going to do UCC visibility. This is our collision channel, and we're going to hit anything that's visible. And finally, we're going to trace parameters so we don't hit ourselves. Now finally, we're going to call the line trace if we hit anything. If hit result is being blocked, blocking hit. So what this does is it indicates if the hit result was blocking collision. So if it overlaps with something, we're going to want to deal damage to it. So what we would do is get a active hit is equal to hit result. And we're going to pick the actor. So whatever actor we hit is now called hit actor. And we're going to actor hit. And we can call any function. We can do destroy for now. If you want to, you can change this to a enemy. But I don't have that set up yet. We're going to do that in the next video. So to run over all of this, I'm going to compile while we run over it. What we did was, if we're not already attacking, we're going to play an animation. The animation will call this line trace. It's going to get the start and end location of our sockets. It's going to set up parameters. It's going to call a line trace, and it's going to destroy it if it hits something. Alright, so if we go in here, the attack notify, you can call the line trace and hook it up to the return node, compile and save. The end attack, we're going to set is attacking to false, hook it up. And now if we create a shape, a cube, and we try to attack it, it doesn't destroy it. So we can draw debug lines to find out what's going on. To do this, we do draw debug lines, get world, start location, end location, F color, and then pick a color. Set the first value to false, the lifetime to 1, the depth priority to 0, and the victors to 1. And I also realized this should be the sword mesh socket, not the player mesh. So swap that out. And if we compile, close and compile, we can see the debug lines, and it destroys the cube. In the next one, we're going to create something that can take damage from the sword, and we can attach it to any actor because it'll be an actor component, and then that should be in the end of the series.